Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that the country does not need licenses to continue promoting national hydrocarbon production and its economy. In Palestine, at least 27 people were killed and some 200 wounded when Israeli military fired for third consecutive day on thousands of people approaching an aid distribution site in Gaza. And in South Korea, vote counting is underway in the snap presidential elections as exit polls project a win for Liberal Democratic Party's candidate Lee Jae-Mying. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro reiterated the country does not need licenses to continue promoting national hydrocarbon production and its economy. During his television program, Con Maduro Más, the Venezuelan president highlighted the country's hydrocarbons engine is producing close to 1.1 million barrels of oil per day, despite the restriction of licenses to oil companies by the United States government as part of its criminal measures of coercion against the people. In that sense, President Maduro stated that Venezuela is a free, independent, and sovereign country that will not be coerced by the U.S. imperialism or its illegal sanctions.
The hydrocarbon engine has 4 components: oil, and we are already close to 1,100,000 barrels per day with our own lung. That they say that such and such a company left, that it returned, not that it left, not that they took away the license of such and such a company, I am not going to name it. That they took it away, that they took it away, that they put it away, that they put it away, take away what you want to take away. Put what you want to put. Venezuelan oil will continue to grow in its production with its own lungs, without depending on anyone. Venezuela does not need licenses. Do we need a license to breathe? Imagine if we needed a license, not that the United States has not approved the license for Venezuelans to breathe, one's eyes would roll back in one's head. But they did approve it, thank goodness. We need a license to have 2 hands to work and produce. There go the empires with their arrogance that believe that with a license they can govern the world. Venezuela is not governed with a license. We are free, independent, rebellious, and sovereign, and we will continue to grow in the production of hydrocarbons.
In Nicaragua, the government gave recognition to the military leadership in the country and at the same time denounced imperialist crimes in the world. Co-presidents Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo led an act in recognition of the military's commitment to the defense of national sovereignty. During the event, the Nicaraguan authorities strongly condemned the Israeli genocide in Gaza, where the Zionist regime, with the support of the West, daily massacres Palestinian civilians. The Sandinista government reiterated its support for regional integration, but denounced the right-wing and fascist governments boycott any agreement, launching offensive remarks against the proposals for peace and sovereignty in the bloc.
No podemos aplaudir ni respaldar.
We cannot applaud and support totally brutal terrorist acts where children are being slaughtered every day in the Gaza Strip, killing the Palestinian people.
En la zona de Gaza, asesinando al pueblo palestino.
And it is terrible to hear the Prime Minister of Israel announce that he is going to wipe them out.
Al primer ministro de Israel anunciar
and that they are going to take over all of that territory.
Que se van a apoderar de todo.
And last Sunday marked the first year of the unconstitutional re-election of Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele, what should have been a report on his administration turned into a speech of laments and attacks on journalists, NGOs, and political opponents. From Salvador, our correspondent Roberto Presas with the details.
After 6 years as president and the first year of his questioned re-election, Nayib Bukele gave a speech of more than an hour at the National Theatre, during which time he lashed out at those he considers opponents and those who describe his actions as anti-democratic and dictatorial.
I personally have been called a dictator in all the media they have wanted and been able to, from Salvadoran pamphlets to international pamphlets, the most prestigious ones. I don't care if they call me dictator.
The ruler made it clear that for him, transparency, rule of law, democracy, and human rights are just terms to subjugate the people.
He declared himself dictator, he assumed it, he decides who gets out of jail, and who doesn't, he is the judicial body. He said that they will remain in prison, including the thousands of victims of the regime of exception that he himself recognizes, that he has spoken of 7,000 innocent prisoners, and many threats to NGOs, to popular organizations, to people who defend human rights. I feel it as worried and violent. It is very dangerous what is being raised in the country.
Es muy peligroso lo que se está planteando en el país.
Bukele also lashed out at independent media, journalists, and non-governmental organizations, whom he accused of responding to a globalist agenda. The government is trying to make the population believe that this is a plot by all the possible means, when what is really happening is that the evidence of a dictatorship in El Salvador is visible to the whole world, to the independent press of the whole world, and that is what is being told. This truth is very uncomfortable for a government that lives on propaganda and publicity. The truth is pushing Bukele further and further into a corner.
Está acorralando cada vez más a Bukele.
The opposition regrets that in his speech he did not refer to the major problems affecting Salvadorans, such as the high cost of living, unemployment, layoffs of public employees, corruption, and lack of medicines. He also did not talk about mining and the more than 250 Venezuelans imprisoned in Secot.
Is precisely because these are the issues that make it complicated. 1. Because it is the environmental deterioration, the right to clean water for our generations, and 2. Is the violation of international treaties, violation of human rights.
Bukele affirmed that the emergency regime has transformed the country into the safest in the continent and that it will continue despite criticism from international organizations and human rights defenders.
Roberto Hugo Presa, teleSUR, El Salvador.
We have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. I'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Mexico, after the first election to renew 881 positions in the judiciary, citizens are confident that this will bring about a positive change in the administration of justice in the country. Antonio Aranda presents the details in the following material.
13 millones de mexicanos fueron a las urnas.
13 million Mexicans went to the polls to vote for judges, ministers, and magistrates to seek a positive change in the administration of justice in the country.
El sistema anterior está muy viciado.
The previous system was very flawed, and now it is intended to be updated in a way that favors justice.
Que favorezca más a la justicia.
Hemos visto la corrupción de cerca.
We have seen the corruption up close and we are very upset with the way the judges and magistrates act, and I don't think it's fair that they inherit the post to their relatives who no longer make an effort to study.
Que a veces, pues ya saben y ya no se esfuerzan en estudiar.
Otros ciudadanos consideran que
Other citizens consider that the renewal of the judiciary by direct vote could have been better.
Bueno, hay mucho que mejorar desde abajo.
Well, there is much to improve from below, the justice system, from the municipal police, and the public ministries. I think that would have been a good reform. From there we would have begun to reform the entire justice system in the country.
Y reformar todo el sistema de justicia en el país.
La presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum
President Claudia Sheinbaum described the judicial election as a success.
13 millones de personas.
13 million people. Of course it is a successful election. People went out to vote freely and decided who to vote for.
Y decidió por quién votar.
La mandataria detalló que la renovación
The president explained that the renovation of the judiciary will restrict acts of corruption and nepotism within the institution.
¿Quién explica? Fíjense, nada más en nuestro periodo.
Who can explain, and just look at our period, that 169 people from organized crime have had changes of measure, and among them many releases. 50% of the members of the judiciary are cousins, brothers, nephews, nephews-in-law, nepotism, accepted by themselves.
Nepotismo aceptado por ellos mismos.
Sheinbaum destacó la estabilidad económica.
Sheinbaum highlighted economic stability in the face of alleged fears of a negative impact on the markets due to the judicial reform.
Bueno, vean el peso hoy, por cierto.
Well, look at the Mexican peso today, by the way, 19.22. The peso is doing very well. Nothing happened with the reform that they said so much was going to happen.
La reforma que decían que tanto iba a pasar.
La oposición de derecha.
The right-wing opposition insists on disqualifying the election to the judiciary, but does not have a clear narrative, says this specialist.
In reality, the opposition not only chose not to participate, but it does not represent anything for the people beyond a circle of very vociferous people. It has no adhesion, no sympathy, no clear narrative. Therefore, I believe that what we are going to see is how little by little an idea of novelty will permeate with whoever is appointed as the new president of the Supreme Court of Justice.
La elección judicial
The judicial election is the product of a constitutional reform of 2024 to broaden the democratic participation of the people in the shaping of their institutions.
Los resultados finales se anunciarán.
The final results will be announced on June 15 by the National Electoral Institute. The winning candidates will take office on September 1, 2025.
Antonio Aranda, Telesur, Ciudad de México.
In Mexico, Mixteco indigenous lawyer Hugo Aguilar is said to become the next president of the Supreme Court of Justice and the first to be elected to that position by popular vote. The National Electoral Institute reported in its latest update that 87% of the votes for the presidency of the country's highest court have been counted. The lawyer, who was an advisor to the Zapatista movement, has almost 5 million votes compared to over 4.6 million votes for Lenia Patres. This Sunday, Mexico successfully held elections for 9 ministers, 486 magistrates, 386 federal judges, as well as magistrates and state judges in 19 states. Meanwhile, in Argentina, former president and leader of the Justicialist Party, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, announced her candidacy for deputy for the 3rd electoral section in the provincial elections to be held on September 7th. She confirmed so on an interview in the Minuto Uno program. In this context, Fernandez criticized President Javier Milei and expressed her concern for the future of Peronism. Thus, the leader attached importance to unity within the party. Likewise, she warned that a defeat in the province could bring about aftermath nationwide. In addition, the former head of state rejected criticism of her decision to run for a seat in the Buenos Aires legislature, arguing that politics must be seen as an opportunity for collective triumph. And in Panama, increased violence over the past 31 days has set off alarms, with 50 people killed during this time. Authorities registered 46 men and 4 women killed violently. Among the provinces most affected are Panama, with 19 homicides, Colón with 12, and the district of San Miguelito with 9. Most of the victims were young people. Gunshot wounds and stab wounds are the most common injuries, according to official reports. And the Dominican government has announced emergency financial aid for families affected by the April nightclub disaster that claimed 234 lives. The government's Superate social program will provide about $509 per month for 6 months to qualifying relatives. The payments will begin next week, and affected families will also receive extended health insurance coverage during this period. The tragedy occurred when the roof of the Jet Set nightclub collapsed during a concert, making it one of the worst disasters in the country's history. Authorities have identified 174 orphaned minors as a result of the incident, prompting additional government intervention. Public Health Minister Victor Atala assured families that the government remains committed to providing support. We now have our second and final short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, we'll be right back with more. Welcome back. In Palestine, at least 27 people were killed and some 200 wounded when Israeli military fired for the third consecutive day on thousands of people approaching an aid distribution site in Gaza. The official Palestinian news agency Wafa reported that the uniformed men opened fire on thousands of citizens on their way to the aid center located west of the city of Rafah. Meanwhile, the Israeli army confirmed the shooting, noting that its troops opened fire on suspects who approached the military some 500 meters away after allegedly deviating from the authorized path. On the other hand, Doctors Without Borders confirmed that dozens of Palestinians have been killed at U.S. and Israeli-backed aid distribution points, also warning of the ineffectiveness of the new aid delivery system, which it described as extremely dangerous. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared in court today to testify in his long-running corruption trial, a landmark moment as he becomes the first sitting Israeli leader to take the stand as a criminal defendant. Netanyahu faces charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in 3 separate cases, all stemming from allegations of accepting luxury gifts from wealthy associates and trading regulatory favors for positive media coverage. Despite years of legal proceedings and mounting evidence, Netanyahu has repeatedly dismissed the charges as a politically motivated attack. His appearance in court has sparked renewed protests and criticism, as many see his continued leadership as emblematic of the impunity and corruption that have long characterized Israeli policy, both domestically and its treatment of Palestinians. In other news, in South Korea, vote counting is underway in the snap presidential election as exit polls project a win for Liberal Democratic Party's candidate Lee Jae-Mying. With reportedly the highest voter turnout in the country in 30 years, millions of South Koreans voted on Tuesday in an early election triggered by the ousting of former head of state Yoon Suk-yeol. The conservative, who is now facing a trial for rebellion in the race, Liberal candidate Lee Jae-Mying faces conservative Kim Mon-soo, who has struggled to win over voters, while his People Power Party struggles internally over how to view Yoon's actions. In this context, exit polls show Lee winning 51.7% of the vote, while Kim trails behind with 39.3%, an early projection which has sparked celebrations across the nation as official results are awaited.
Our society has been filled with anxiety and division. I hope the next president can unite this divided society and show a new path. The next leader cannot be an authoritarian leader. The next leader has to suggest a new direction and let people have their freedom within that.
Let's go deeper into the matter. Over the past 6 months, large crowds have demonstrated in the streets to denounce or support Yoon. while the leadership vacuum caused by his formal dismissal has shaken the country's high-level diplomatic activities and financial markets. The winning candidate in this early election, who will face major challenges such as a slowing economy, will be sworn in on Wednesday for a full 5-year term without the typical 2-month transition period. Now, Bulgaria is facing deep divisions as the European Union prepares to decide whether the country should adopt a euro currency. While the government is pushing for integration, populist and nationalist groups have staged protests fearing inflation and loss of economic sovereignty. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in Sofia over the weekend demanding a referendum to keep the Bulgarian lev as the national currency. Despite opposition, Bulgaria has met key economic criteria including inflation control and budget stability, making it eligible for Eurozone entry. The European Commission is set to announce its assessment this week, followed by a decision from EU member states in the coming weeks. If approved, Bulgaria could join the Eurozone by January 2026. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.